In 88% of families that displayed child physical abuse, there was also cruelty to animals. I wanted to share a story. In Atlanta, a contractor drove up to a work site, gets out of his truck, and he hears dogs screaming from next door. And he can see this dog basically dragging himself in the garage, and there's a woman there, so he goes over to see what's going on and if he can help. And the woman says to him, pleads with him, please take my dog to the vet to be put down. I can't afford the bill. He's a good guy, and he does. Now, the vet has there's some red flags here. So he contacts a woman by the name of Melinda Merck, who was at the time the director of the Veterinary Forensics Medical Science Unit in Gainesville, Florida. And she did a necropsy on the dog. And what she found was the dog was paralyzed because of repeated beatings. So she reports her findings to the police. The police go back to the house to make an arrest of somebody, and when they do, they find a severely abused and bruised child. So it's important to pay attention. Animal cruelty also impacts society in that it goes hand in hand with elder abuse. We don't have much as empirical study done in this respect, but we do know that abusers of the elderly intimidate their victims, threaten to harm their animals, or do in fact harm them if they don't do things like turn over their assets or give them their medication or their money. They also take their frustrations out on the pet because caring for the elderly and disabled is sometimes stressful. And so here again, the poor animal becomes a scapegoat. In California, some humane officers were called to a home to remove some dogs or puppies that were left behind to starve in an empty apartment. So they go about collecting these animals, and as they're leaving, they hear this whimpering from the closet. And thinking that there's more animals there, they go to investigate. And what they find is an elderly, emaciated man who was also left behind by his wonderful caregivers. All right, let me see if I can do this. the Animal League Defense Fund. They were founded in 1979 by a group of attorneys who were active in shaping what was becoming the emerging field of animal law. You know, they fight to protect lives and advance interests of animals through the legal system. They have filed some groundbreaking lawsuits. They provide free legal assistance to prosecutors who want to prosecute animal cruelty cases. And they also provide public education through seminars and workshops and other outreach programs. Every year since 2006, they have put out this annual U.S. Animal Protection Laws Ranking Report. And basically, it's the longest running and most authoritative report surveying animal protection laws of all U.S. states and territories. The report assesses the strength of each jurisdiction's animal protection laws by examining over 4,000 pages of statutes and then scoring them on 15 different categories of animal protection. I'm not going to go down those categories, but they're in your PowerPoint if you want to see them. This is a map showing the rankings for well, it says 2013 here, but I have on my PowerPoint I updated. In 2014, the top 5 best states having the best animal protection laws are the best was Illinois, followed by Maine, Oregon, California, and Michigan. And the 5 worst states were Wyoming, Utah, New Mexico, Iowa, and Kentucky. Now those are 2014 estimates. And in 2014, Pennsylvania, for comparison, fell to 44th from 41st. Over the past 5 years, more than 3/4 of all states and territories have experienced a significant improvement in their animal protection laws. And again, these are some of the improvements we go for those in your PowerPoints. There's new fields opening up all over. One is this veterinary forensics medicine science division. I believe the first one was at the University of Florida in Gainesville under the direction of and I talked about her a little earlier. In these programs, students are being trained in the same way that traditional crime scene investigators are being trained. They're learning crime scene processing, forensic entomology, which is basically determining the time of death or injury based on the insects around the crime scene. They are doing blood stain patterns and bite mark analysis. They're learning how to excavate buried remains, and they study forensic osteology, which is the study of bones and bone fragments, and they also have their own mobile CSI unit. There's also a program in San Diego. I did see online that the University of Florida has an online program as well. And just recently in March, Center County hosted a conference on this particular subject. I'm gonna skip past these two because I didn't run out of time. So, but basically I was gonna share with you some stories that I'm sure you get a picture. Anyway, so what can we do then? Well, I mean, one thing we can do is start off with measuring and doing assessments. I found 6 assessments that could be used. Just going to talk about 2 of the better ones. The one is the Children and Animal Assessment Instrument, and this gathers data on experience with animals, whether it's committed or observed, and it's scored on 9 aspects of cruel behavior, such as the severity or the degree of the intentional pain, the frequency, by the number of separate acts, the duration or the time period over which the acts occur, the recency of the act, the the diversity across and within categories, such as the number of types and the number of animals, the level of concern that the abuser has for the animal or the sentience, if it was covert, did they try to hide their attempts at hurting the animal? Was it isolated, or was it a group activity? And also scores on empathy or remorse. The only downfall of this particular assessment is that it is time consuming. And then the other one is the clinical assessment of juvenile animal cruelty. This is basically a clinical manual that is intended to be used by mental health clinicians to find the most effective treatment approach for families and children. I don't know if anybody like juvenile probation uses anything like that around here or locally, but it's typically used in juvenile court cases. And basically, this manual is a ready-to-use interview and assessment protocols. It has protocols in it. It's simple and pragmatic, and it is the most comprehensive measure of juvenile animal cruelty thus far. The other thing that I think is extremely important is that there needs to be this cross-sharing of information between law enforcement, child protection and social services, animal control, vets, mental health professionals, and educators. Oftentimes, everybody has a little piece of the puzzle, but if we can cross-share that information, it's important. I would like to see somehow, you know, this idea of animal cruelty being addressed in, I don't know if it's something that's included in the child death review teams, or something like our multidisciplinary team meetings that take place through our agency. Also, what we can do is respond, report, and use whatever resources you have available to you. Intervene, if you can do so safely. I mean, or at least say something. If you see some kids that are abusing animals, you know, in the community, say something to them. You know, break their concentration. You know, maybe they think you're going to call the police, and so that'll be enough to make them stop. You can call 911. A lot of people don't want to do that, I think, because they don't want to get involved. But as much as you can report anonymously to CYS, you can report anonymously to 911 as well. Okay. I also included in the handouts that I gave, if anybody came in late and didn't get any, I have some up here, but there's an informational sheet in there on learning how to contact the Internet Crime Complaint Center, which is IC3. If you see animal cruelty on the internet, there are certain things that you can definitely report to them, and they will investigate it. There's this link to Pennsylvania's laws and statutes on how they relate to animal cruelty. You can do that as well. And I just saw something on Facebook that they've now updated their guidelines where you can actually report if you see something promoting animal violence on Facebook. You can do that as well. Please be their voice. I mean, definitely we need to change laws. I think the biggest thing I'm excited about is in September of 2014, the FBI changed their policy to add animal cruelty as a distinct offense